All right, now you're all good. Aaron, just for the record, first, last name, and then your title.
I'm Aaron Sutliff. I'm the Division Chief of the Protective Order Unit at the County Attorney's Office, an Assistant County Attorney.
Cool. Aaron, talk about the new protective order, the amendment to it. What does it do?
So we had experienced over many years the example of victims coming to us and asking for a protective order, a protective order extension. So we would have gotten them a 2-year protective order, and then a criminal prosecution was going on, and it wasn't resolved within 2 years. 2 years is the standard length of time for protective order. Or they were getting a divorce, and that wasn't resolved within 2 years, or a child custody suit wasn't resolved. So the protective order would end, and they would come to us and say, hey, I want an extension. We'd have to tell them there's no such thing in Texas of an extension based on continuing litigation. So we took that idea, that problem, to Speaker Pro Tem Joe Moody, our local representative, and we said, hey, we'd like to change this. And so he worked hard, he filed a bill, and long story short, it got onto a larger bill that affects domestic violence victims, and we were successful in changing the law.
And I know you can't get too specific, but talk about the problem that was going on that after it expired. And obviously some cases are different and people are different, but
Yeah.
you were seeing people were getting violent.
Yeah, so according to the Texas Council on Family Violence, they do an annual survey of the people killed by their intimate partners, and they've observed over many years that victims are at their most dangerous stage when they are taking steps to leave, and that can include getting a protective order, getting divorced, or participating in criminal prosecution. And so in those instances, we've seen time and time and again that victims are at their most dangerous, yet the protective order was ending. And so that's what they would ask for, is I want an extension so I can participate in the criminal and civil justice process, which we want victims to do, but they were having to do so without the protection of a protective order. And so that was the change that we look to get to. The bottom line is that a victim deserves to be safe in participating in the criminal justice process and the civil justice process. That's what we want them to do. And so by changing the law in this way, we're able to protect them after the end of the criminal prosecution or the divorce or the suit affecting the child-parent relationship for 2 additional years.
And talk about that too, because the need for it, because cases just don't happen overnight. You're not going to trial within sometimes not even a year, but it does take a little time.
Right, so the cases can drag on. We want people to have due process, people that are accused of crimes and people involved in the system. So yeah, it's unfortunately true that in the criminal justice process, it can take 2 years or even longer to resolve even misdemeanor assault family violence cases. But same thing with the divorce. I've seen many divorces last longer than 2 years because there may be complicated custody issues or property, or it just may not resolve. And so like I say, the protective order might end during that litigation, and that's not safe for a victim.
And what question I want to ask you too, and like you said, I know you can't get too much, but we're talking just stat-wise, what are we seeing here in El Paso as far as domestic violence cases and disputes?
I'm best speaking to the number of applications and protective orders that we have obtained as a part of the process. So the county attorney's office regularly gets over 3,000 applications for protective order. Not everyone that applies for a protective order can get one because they may not meet the elements. We just may not be able to prove it in court. But that number of people seek protective orders. We are able to get protective orders for around 600 or so victims each year based on stalking, domestic violence, sexual assault, even human trafficking in El Paso. So it's a significant number of people that are experiencing violence.
And last question, just for people watching, women or men, or just whoever's going through that, I mean, how important is it just to seek a protective order if you're in that kind of situation?
Well, I would say that protective orders are not armor, right? They're not literally armor, but they're our system's best approach to helping victims get safe when they've experienced violence or stalking behavior. And they're a ready conduit for the police to show up and arrest someone that's committing new offenses or coming too close or violating that protective order. So it's a really important civil and criminal justice tool that we have.
Cool, and I know you sent the information on the press release where people can get information, but is there anything I didn't mention that you want to talk about?
So a couple of things, and you can apply for a protective order online anytime. You just would Google elpasocounty.com and you can apply from the safety of your own home anytime. We'll take a look at it and we'll decide whether we can move forward. So that's safe. And then if you want to get a protective order, you don't actually have to come to the courthouse either. Most of our cases are handled remotely so that you're safe in your home. Seeking a protective order. But if home is not safe and you need shelter services, 593-7300 is a 593-7300 is the Center Against Sexual and Family Violence. Their shelter and resource system is a real lifesaver in our community.
Cool. All right, great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, that was nice.
I actually reached out to them today too to get an